sir. It's the FCS Checkdown. Nathan McCurry, Brandon Joseph. Yeah, week 3 of FCS, the finest FCS football. Brandon, man, you jumped in just in time. So good to see you, man. Your camera's looking crisp too. Loving that.
I got a different camera, so it's good.
Nice.
And it's daytime.
It is daytime. That always helps. Let me frame us up here a little bit better because it's a mess right now. Let me see. Here you go. I'm going to do a little digital doohickey here. Yeah. All right. And then publish that sucker. All right. There we go. Brandon, week 3 and some FCS news kind of breaking this week as the FCS Oversight Committee has now proposed a transfer window from January. It's like, was it 10 days in January, something like that? I think this is an interesting approach. FBS has kind of done the same thing as well. This hat looks terrible. Let me take the stupid hat. I mean, it's not a stupid hat. Yeah. There you go. It's not my favorite. But yeah, so FCS looking at this, a transfer window similar to what like the Premier League and soccer leagues do. They have a transfer window that is open for a certain amount of time, and that keeps players from jumping from team to team or wherever, entering the portal. What are your thoughts on this kind of approach to the transfer portal? It's kind of something that's probably been needed for a long time.
Yeah, it's more in line with what the FBS has currently. You have a 20-day window or something like that to provide written notification that you plan on leaving your current program. So this falls basically in line with the FBS transfer portal. Essentially, that 10-day window from January 2nd to the 11th.
Yeah.
Now, what will have to be placated, and this will be the same at the FBS level as well, is those teams that are playing for the national championship. I believe they will grandfather, I think, a 5-day window post your last game for any team that is still playing. So I believe in the FBS, that would be potentially 1 or 2 of the semifinals, depending on when January 2nd falls. And then the championship game, of course. And then for the FCS, it will be the championship game. And just in that window there, if your team's still playing, they don't want players to declare the transfer portal because technically once you're in the portal, you're not supposed to be around the program. You take a look at what happened to Penn State last year in their playoff game. Bo Pribula, their quarterback, ends up transferring out to go to Missouri and effectively leaves 2 days before because Missouri wanted him on campus to start practicing. And it's going to be different at the FCS level. Nobody's going to be, no disrespect, nobody's going to be that important that I need you to leave your team immediately if you're playing in the national championship game. But, the potential is still there. Mark Gronowski, if Iowa really wanted him that bad, they could have been like, hey, leave your team before the national championship game and show up. So I think in that regard, when you deal with things like that, it's best just to have that 5-day window. That way, any team playing in the national championship game or the respective subdivision doesn't have to necessarily worry about leaving their team, and they can do it after the fact. But yeah, this just puts it in line with the FBS. And again, there will be more synergies before there is separation.
Yeah, you know what? You brought up Mark Gronowski. Completely side note, you a little surprised about how bad Mark Gronowski's looked for Iowa as the starting quarterback there?
Yes and no. Iowa notoriously is bad offensively. I mean, if you take a look, and it doesn't matter if it's Brian Ferentz, Kirk Ferentz's son, or they replaced him this year and was supposed to revolutionize the offense. Iowa's offense has been bad for the better part of 5 years or so. They don't have the guys. They don't run a system. And listen, when you have a head coach in place for 20 plus years, this is what happens. It just gets stale and predictable, and the philosophy stays the same. And he's only going to hire people that believe in his philosophy. To the point of Mark Gronowski's play, that is surprising also, just because of the fact that he looks like he's overwhelmed. This version that we see of him would not even start at South Dakota State. This version of him is not, and there is a little bit of, there's the Cam Ward effect and the Trey Lance effect. Trey Lance hoodwinked everybody. He played in 3 games during the COVID year for North Dakota State and said, I'm going to be drafted, gets drafted top of the board, and we figure it out fairly quickly. He can't play in the NFL. It's not a matter of, he just needs time. He can't play in the NFL. And I think exposure probably would have done that for him. And I think also that North Dakota State offense did a lot to hide his flaws. And that's why he's not somebody that is feasible in the NFL. You get the Cam Ward effect, and Cam was putting up all these numbers at Incarnate Word. He goes to Miami, and people forget about Incarnate Word. He is a Miami quarterback that did this in Miami. So, we write off the Incarnate Word factor for Cam Ward, even though he was doing it at the FCS level, and attribute all of his success to Miami. There's somewhere in between of how much, these scouts at the NFL level will look at a quarterback from the FCS and go, okay, this translates this viable. Mark Gronowski did not do himself any favors, I think, by going to Iowa right now. If he would have declared for the draft, he probably would have been 5 to 7 or maybe a priority undrafted free agent. He's not getting drafted after this.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate for the kid. I just think he put himself in a bad situation, and he may have got a payday out of it. I don't know the details. I'd have to do more research on if a check was cut to get him. I imagine a check was cut to get him to go to Iowa, because anybody looking at that offense the past few years would not go there unless they were well compensated. But as far as his future prospects, he just looks like he is overwhelmed, confused, and the game is too fast at the FBS level, which is kind of strange for a quarterback that we saw make some big time throws, big time plays at the FCS level. That the speed of the game and everything around him is just too quick right now. And maybe over the course of the year it will slow down for him, but right now it's just not looking like a good marriage between those two.
Iowa runs, that's Kirk Ferentz runs that run pass option. A lot of RPO stuff, and their offensive coordinator, Tim Lester, is a topic of conversation because he brings in a very complicated offense. And that is, like you said, it could be that it's going too fast. It's just a too big of a jump for Mark Gronowski, and it'll slow down as time goes on. But they're not very patient there in Iowa, and
the core fundamental problem with it too is he's having trouble handling snaps. Yeah. So that just shows, like, it's not like he's pushing the ball downfield, making incorrect reads. He can't handle snaps right now, which means there's way too much going on for him at the line of scrimmage that he can't even focus on center, ball, hands, let's run the offense. So yeah, to your point, that is true testament number one. They need to call a timeout and hit a reset. And even if you run basic stuff, just get the simple things down.
Yeah, so I had no idea we were going to talk about Mark Gronowski here. But so go back to the FCS transfer portal. There has to be a window. There has to be some kind of parameter, some guardrails for these guys who want to transfer and they can stay through the full season, and you're not having these jumps like what Matthew Sluka did last year with UNLV. Comes out very vocal. They're not committing to me that they said they would. The money's not there. I'm going to bounce and move on. Obviously that was a very complicated situation. And then Hajj Malik Williams steps in, and no one really missed Matthew Sluka, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He landed another FBS gig. I can't recall where he is, but that kind of, I'm transferring now right in the middle of the game, right in the middle of the season because they're not paying me. And it caused a bit of a storm because UNLV was having a fantastic start to the season. Now you're going to have some parameters of okay, here's when your opportunity to say you're going to enter your transfer portal, your wishes. It's got to be done, and then you're off and running to your next program, and best of luck to you. I think it's a good thing. I think it provides some stability for the FCS.
Yeah, and here's the problem that the FCS is always going to have. A lot of players who are well performed at the FCS will take a payday at the FBS level.
Right.
I think, just put it in line and don't try to, smoke and mirrors anything and make 2 different portal windows and make it really tough for these kids. These kids are going to go, and even like Matthew Sluga, or if you want to take Retzlaff for leaving BYU going to Tulane, there are mechanisms for them to just leave their program and enter in as a walk-on. And because now we're in the world of NIL, for Jake Retzlaff to leave BYU and to go to Tulane, guess what? He was able to pay his way to be a student athlete, a walk-on student athlete, due to NIL money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody can step up and say, hey, we're going to pay for them, walk-on team, now you're immediately eligible. So I think, let's just not pretend anymore. Let's put these transfer portal windows in line. I know some of the FBS coaches want it after everything's all said and done. Listen, you're already Ohio State, Georgia, LSU. All these schools are already the best.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a little bit of adversity, they'll be okay. But also for these FCS schools, it's not dealing with a chance of, okay, I'm going to think I have my roster set in December, and then we have the second window, and then the FBS guys are plucking from my roster to fill gaps because guys are leaving to go to the NFL, or guys are just not performing, or guys are failing out of school. So put everything in line. Let these schools at both levels set their rosters as soon as possible.
Yes.
And then if you want to leave for some extenuating circumstance, good luck on figuring out a mechanism to work that out.
Yeah, and by the way, Matthew Sluka plays for James Madison now. They picked up a big win against Weber State to start the season. They lost to Louisville. He's doing well there at James Madison. And, yeah, I mean, all those things are, part of the process. And just scholarship news, it looks like Arkansas Pine Bluff is dedicating to 105 scholarships there for their program. I think that's a bit of, you have a lot of big conferences, top tier programs saying, we're not going to do the 105 scholarships. We're going to keep it as is and move forward there. Arkansas Pine Bluff, hey, you know what? Big ups to them. They say we're 105. We're going to bring in as many scholarship players as we can and be as competitive as we can. So congratulations to them. And that program kind of needs an injection of some of talent there for that program.
It's interesting to see because you see like some of the programs, like you mentioned, that do go the max scholarships and don't. I think we're seeing a lot of these programs that are smaller programs, more community ties, and there is some benefactor or some business in there that can step up to bridge the gap. In some of these quasi larger areas where the money is split differently, it is tougher. Some of these universities don't want to do it. I mean, some of these universities will spend $9 million in a budget and then go, I'm not sure if I want to go to 105 in scholarships. I think the divide will be sooner rather than later. You have to be at a threshold. It may not be the 105, but you're going to have to be at a higher threshold 105 to max scholarship definitely to be considered in the highest tier. But like I've been saying for years, the highest tier is about to get chopped off at a certain point. Yeah. So that next highest tier, there will be a floor. You may not have to be at the ceiling, but you'll certainly have to meet the floor. And I think a lot of these schools are just saying, hey, football is our biggest recruiter to get, not just in terms of, football recruiting, but to get kids to come to our university. It is our biggest marketing tool, no matter what. And God love, the science department. The science department ain't generating revenue. Kids don't go, you know what? I want to go to this school because of the science department. You may get some, but the vast majority of kids want to go to a school that is marketed to them. I mean, we saw it firsthand during our time at Kennesaw. There were still kids walking around campus with a UGA sweater. They would go to Athens to hang out and party on the weekends. It is well marketed, and that's why all these schools start these football programs and invest in them, because it is your biggest marketing tool and asset. So I think investing in there will pay dividends. The thing is also, these guys, and we're seeing it at the lower tier of the FBS in the group of 4, group of 5, you need to get together and start working on, making sure that your brand is well taken care of, whether that's a pooling of rights and getting out there. So just investing in your own little bubble, it will help in your bubble, but it won't help you grow.
Yeah. And just to kind of put it a perspective on it, some of these FBS programs, $88-90 million operating budgets. Hero Sports did a great comparison for the FCS operating budgets for 2024. South Dakota State, $9.6 million. Big difference. It's a big difference, obviously. So,
yeah, and when people get on me about what I know, what I don't know, why isn't this university considered? Yeah, you may spend a lot for the level that you are at. You may have a big amount of endowment at the level you are at. There is still a different standard to hit that next threshold. There's still a
Right.
big gap to hit that threshold, and that's what we're seeing. $9 million is a lot of money. That's a lot of millions in there. But when you have, teams that are willing to lose that amount of money and just write it off and go, that's the operating cost to be at this level. And there's a lot of schools that lose upwards of $4 or $5 million that are subsidized and just go, you know what? That's what we do.
Right.
That's what it takes to play at this level to market that. That is a different pill to swallow for a lot of these institutions, and a lot of presidents have to go in front of, board of trustees and the state and try to justify that. That's really tough to swallow. But to the point that will save them is, are you better off than, Eastern Michigan? Are you?
Right.
I mean, you're playing essentially one school in South Dakota State is year in year out playing for something. Eastern Michigan is showing up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's any, knock or any disrespect to South Dakota State. It is more the fact of what can we do to raise the profile of FCS, and the fact that you don't want to keep losing programs like Kennesaw State, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, James Madison, Old Dominion. These are programs that are opting to leave this level and go be, for lack of a better term, bottom feeders at the other level, when they could all be contending and play for something. Imagine if you had all
Yes.
those schools, especially in the Southeast, still at the FCS level. That is, I would argue, better content than the MAC, better content than what CUSA would have, better content than the Sun Belt would have most times, week in, week out. So I think you can take a look at the 9 million and understand that is a lot of money. And with respect to that, and from what I told, they could go higher if they need be. But you have teams willing to lose 9 million to be at that
Right.
level. You have teams that it's just not worth it. They're willing to lose money to not play for anything. So you know, is it better suited to invest the time and the effort into growing the brand that you're in? I think
Yeah.
so.
And honestly, the FCS platform for a playoff is superior to anything else that you've got. The FBS playoff committee, it's got problems. The bowl system, it's got
I mean,
problems.
the FCS committee has problems too.
Well, of course it does, but it's usually at the bottom tier
Yeah.
of the first four in, last four out kind
Yeah.
of question, rather than we're not getting the potentially we're not getting the best contenders for a championship. And I think that FCS level has got it. And because we were around Kennesaw State, and I think we mentioned it every broadcast, I'm sure people were like, "Yeah, shut up about it." Because we were around it, it was heartbreaking because you knew the ambition to go to FBS was a money-chasing venture. Football was being developed at a FCS level and a championship level of football at Kennesaw State with Brian Bohannon. Yes, he was running the spread option offense. Yes, he was having to make some adjustments because of some of the rule changes, and they want to get rid of basically what the traditional spread option looked like because of the cutting there in the offensive line and such. But they had a championship style program. Within a couple of years, they were Big South champion, and they were competing in the quarterfinals of the FCS playoffs. So, and then you knew they were going to FBS. And what does that mean? I mean, it's what it is. They're going to go to Indiana and get their butts kicked. They're going to go to, wherever and get their butts kicked. And then they're going to have a home game against Merrimack, who they've got this, tomorrow and Saturday. And they're going to thump Merrimack probably because they've got, the talent levels there. And then they're going to get back into the FBS schedule and they're going to win 2-3 games maybe. And that's what it's going to be. Is that fun? Their stands are empty. The students do not buy into Kennesaw State football.
Yeah, I was around when Bill Curry at Georgia State basically told the university, the presidents as well, we could be successful at the FCS level, or we can take a drubbing at the FBS level and still make it worth it. We have to eat, 20,000 tickets to meet the threshold of at the time the NCAA had the minimum attendance requirement.
They were playing at the Dome, right?
Yeah, the FBS level, yeah, and you had to eat the ticket sales, and all that was still well worth it rather than playing in the FCS. So there's a core fundamental problem when all these schools are looking, saying, I will take $500,000 in a media rights deal rather than playing for a potential conference championship and FCS playoffs. To that point, where do these guys coming together to try to fix it. Right now, they are sitting at a table waiting for the FBS to decide how they want to bully them. And that's what it all boils down to. All these meetings, the FCS, they can say, hey, we have a seat at the table. Well, guess what? The NCAA keeps adding more and more seats, and one of them goes to representatives of the student athletes, and like 90% of the rest of them go towards FBS people. And you just kind of sit there and you just kind of go, okay, whatever's left for us, we'll do. Instead of being proactive about what you want to do, what you want your level of football to be. Everybody's sitting around waiting for the Power Four conferences to determine what their playoff is going to be, and thus determine what the FBS structure is going to end up doing, rather than the FCS going, okay, who are our power leaders, our power brokers in this conference? Okay, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana, Montana State. You could take the conferences, Big Sky, Missouri Valley Football Conference, and go, okay, we're going to be the SEC and the Big Ten of our level and set the guidelines for the rules of engagement to play at our level. Instead, you have North Dakota State and their fan base waiting for a call to go join the Mountain West to go play at 11 o'clock on CBS Sports Network or the Mountain West Network. And guess what? The Mountain West Network isn't really a network. You have to go to mountainwest.com or mw.com to go watch the games. So at some point, you need to take pride in what you are at and grow that, rather than just sitting there waiting for the table scraps to come your way. And I think that's the tough part is it fear? Maybe. I don't know. Is it incompetence at the NCAA level? I think there's 90% there as well. I think nobody at the NCAA really knows what to do. So I look at Greg Sankey like, you're our fearless leader. You tell us what to do. Tony Petitti, you tell us what to do. Just don't sue us and sue us out of existence, because we make millions off of you.
Yeah.
And there, I think the only thing the NCAA really truly cares about is basketball tournament. That's the only thing they have full oversight and control of. And everybody's more equally represented there. But at the football level, if they don't start advocating for themselves, if they don't start inserting themselves into their own conversation, their own narrative, and making sure that they're taken care of, guess what? SEC ain't going to take care of you. And they're going to look at the MAC. They're going to look at some of these other conferences at the lower end and go, okay, we don't really want you guys. We don't want to have to split our giant pool with you guys. And you already get the scraps over that pool. But we would rather keep that, because guess what? We have to start paying players, and it's only going to go up over time. So let's just get rid of you. Let's get this out, and let's have the SEC Big Ten yearly showdown where we can sell these marketed games now that we're all at non-conference game with the obligation that you have to play another, and let's sell these games. And guess what those games come from? They come from the FCS charity games that they call them, and they call them charity games. Any university will tell you, hey, we call these games charity games because we know we just write them a check and that's our charity for the year. Well, those games are going to get eliminated. So now if you are an FCS school and you were counting on Austin Peay, if you were counting on that Georgia check, that 1.5 or something million coming in to go play that game, or Kennesaw getting 1.5 from Indiana at the FBS level even, and those games go away, and then all of a sudden you look around in CUSA and they go, okay, they're not letting us play for this title, so we have to play for this new second-tier title. Where are we going to make some money at? Mm-hmm. How are we going to make these funds? My TV deal is only worth $500,000 a year in terms of Kennesaw. For Austin Peay, my TV deal is worth less than $500,000 a year. Where is this income going to come from? Well, like we've said on this podcast for years, if you're not the ones going to ESPN and the NCAA saying stop bundling our rights with archery and track and field and cross country and wrestling, because we have something that can get 2 million viewers on ABC when we have the national championship game on there with ease against NFL playoff games. Pay us what we're valued at. Pay us what we can get on the open market. And if you have to leave ESPN to go do that, then go do that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the game previews for this week in the FCS. We're going to start with Leigh and Duquesne, Brandon. Number 10, Leigh travels to Duquesne for the first ever meeting between the two programs with playoff aspirations and contrasting early season narratives under second-year head coach Kevin Cahill. Leigh enters week 3, number 10, as we mentioned before, riding that 2-0 start, highlighted by a 21-14 Patriot League win over the number 25 team in the country, Richmond, and a 28-10 non-conference victory against Sacred Heart. The Mountain Hawks are 13-time Patriot League champions through 2 games in 2025. They boast one of the nation's stingiest defenses, ranked third in total defense of 179 yards per game, top 10 in rushing and passing and scoring defense. Offensively, Lehigh ranks 13th in FCS in rushing, averaging over 225 yards per game, with 5 of its 7 touchdowns coming on the ground. Dual threat quarterback Hayden Johnson has thrown 264 yards and 2 scores, while wideout Jeffrey Jamil leads the receiving corps with 128 yards, 128 yards and a touchdown. The ground game features a balanced attack, 6 players contributing to nearly 300 yards of offense. The Mountain Hawks have allowed just 110 yards passing through 2 games this fall, building on a unit ranked 16th nationally last season. Duquesne, meanwhile, looks to build momentum under veteran head coach Jerry Schmidt. Following a 1-1 start, a lopsided 61-9 loss to Pitt, the Dukes rebounded with the 55 rout of Lincoln. Of course, that's the whipping post of the FCS, their home opener. Graduate transfer Tyler Riddell. Yes, that Tyler Riddell, or Rydell. I don't think we ever figured out how to pronounce his name. Tyler Rydell still in the FCS. Believe it or not, he earned NEC Prime Performer honors, throwing 5 first-half touchdowns, 239 yards, connecting with 4 different receivers. This is going to be an interesting matchup. It is Lehigh, number 10 in the country. A little bit challenging to match up against what we think Duquesne may be a pretty a squared-away program with a veteran coach and now a quarterback in Tyler Rydell, who obviously he's got talent. He's veteran. He's experienced, Brandon. Lehigh at Duquesne. It's an NEC front row game, that .com type atmosphere to stream. So what do you think about Lehigh and Duquesne? Lehigh is a very good football program.
Yeah, and Duquesne has been able to pass the ball very well. And as you mentioned, Tyler Rydell, he's been around for a decade and a half, seemingly, at quarterback at the FCS level. I mean, it's just going to be, a team that likes to, push the ball down the field, and a team that has a more balanced mix than Lehigh. The problem with Lehigh has been interceptions when they have to throw the ball, so I think that's going to be the determining factor in the game.
Yeah, sorry, I had to cough. Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be close. I think Lehigh's going to go in there, and I think Duquesne's going to put up a fight. I do expect Lehigh to win the game and go 3-0 on the season. So we shall see. All right, up next.
Are we giving picks now, or are we going to wait to the end?
Yeah, we can kind of talk about picks. We'll kind of solidify what we've got as we go through. Up next, we've got South Dakota hosting Northern Colorado. The Bears enter week 3 with renewed confidence and a chip on its shoulder after nearly stunning FBS in-state rival Colorado State in Fort Collins. The Bears led for over 52 minutes at Canvas Stadium and built a 10-0 halftime advantage behind a pair of first-half takeaways, including a muffed punt recovery by Zach Pekarak that set up Jacob Willig's field goal. Can't score field goals, got to score touchdowns. And a 1-yard touchdown plunge by quarterback Kaya Keone. Northern Colorado extended its lead up to 17-7 in the third, but it drifted away as Colorado State finally fought back and picked up a win. But it was a good showing for Northern Colorado. My dog's playing with his toy in the background, by the way. That's what you hear. Saturday's matchup at South Dakota marks the 37th all-time meeting between the Bears and the Coyotes. Northern Colorado holds a 20-16 series advantage dating back to 1959, by the way. Pretty cool. So this one's going to be Ed Lamb is the head coach there at Northern Colorado, a 2-time Eddie Robinson Award finalist, as he's going to bring the Bears into the number 16 team, South Dakota. Obviously, we know what South Dakota is, Brandon. This is at the Vermilion Dome. Northern Colorado, a much improved team from last year. South Dakota is what they is. I mean, that is a quality football program there. Do you see Northern Colorado having a shot there on the road?
No. I think you're going to face, and I'm just going to say it, a pissed off South Dakota Coyotes. Yeah. You're going to see them, a game they lost against Lamar, and they haven't played really well. Bauman at quarterback hasn't played really well all year. I think, Northern Colorado, I want to be very respectful to Colorado State. Is Jay Norvell still the head coach over there? I think he still is the head coach over there at Fort Collins. They're not a good team. They've been trending down for a long time. They had a peak 2 years ago with Brady Nicolosi Fowler or Fowler Nicolosi, one of those two, and they have the last name inverse there. A couple years ago, and they were like, "Oh man, this could be something here for the Rams." They're not good. And I think credit Northern Colorado, you had every opportunity to win that game, but just because you almost beat a not good team doesn't necessarily mean you're the good team in the factor. And I've said this before, style sometimes make fights, not necessarily the caliber of the fight. But Ed Lamb and Northern Colorado, it's going to be hard to try to get those guys up in the same way for the South Dakota game. And I think for South Dakota, they feel like they should have beat Lamar. Iowa State game out of the window. I think South Dakota rolls over Northern Colorado.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is a kind of get right games for South Dakota. We shall see, but I think there's no reason that South Dakota drops this football game. But you know what? Stranger things have happened.
I mean, if they fall 0-3, then they are not the team that everybody thought they would.
Aiden Bauman returning with a lot of experience and a lot of hype behind him coming back. Yeah. Got to get it done. Got to get it done. All right, up next, it's Rhode Island and Holy Cross. Rhode Island enters week 3 riding a wave of momentum after a historic stretch of successes, having won 12 of its last 14 games dating back to September of 2024, a run that matches the 14-game mark best in history. The Rams climbed to number 6 in the Stats Perform FCS poll with that 2-0 start, including that win Stony Brook and a season-open victory over Campbell. Junior linebacker Case Mankins has emerged as a defensive catalyst, forcing fumbles in each of his first 2 games, setting career highs in tackles, while wide receiver Abora Kwarteng, Kwarteng, has 114 yards versus Stony Brook's. Marquez Buchanan had 167 yards versus Campbell. Each posted 100-plus yard performances to spark a balanced offensive attack. Rhode Island now travels to Holy Cross in its first visit to Worcester in 37 years. Worcester? I forgot how they pronounce it. Is it just Worcester?
Worcester, Mass.
Yeah, Worcester, Mass. Okay. Last playing there in 1988, it was a 49-7 Crusader win. The Rams won the last meeting also in dramatic fashion as Devin Farrell connected with Sean Harris on a 31-yard touchdown with 19 seconds remaining to steal a victory in the season opener a season ago. Holy Cross, meanwhile, looks to rebound from an 0-2 start under second-year head coach Dan Curran, who led the program to share its 6th Patriot League title in 2024. The Crusaders have dropped back-to-back close contests, 19-16 at UNH last week after a narrow loss at Rhode Island in week 1. Despite early set, Holy Cross has allowed just 19 points in each of its first 2 games. It continues to lean on veteran playmakers like Jaden Clevereau, a 2024 All-Patriot League and All-New England first-team selection, and quarterback Cal Swanson. So Holy Cross, obviously a program that has had some success over the last couple of years, took a step back when they lost their head coach and lost to Matthew Sluka, their quarterback. But now you've got to face a Rhode Island team, number 4 in the country in the Stats FCS poll, the team that a lot of people think can be that East Coast competitor in the playoffs. Holy Cross is a good football team. I mean, I don't expect Rhode Island to go in there and stumble, but what do you think?
Holy Cross has in 2 games allowed an average of 19 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
They've lost both those games. They lost 19-17 to Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame last year. That doesn't mean anything, but just something for everybody to know. They also lost 19-16 to New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, Rhode Island, they average points scored in a game, 31. 31-20 over Campbell, 31-17 over Stony Brook. Where does the line cross here? I think Holy Cross defensively can limit the output of Rhode Island. The problem with Holy Cross is they can't score.
Yeah.
And that's going to be tough. And I just don't see a way, if you can't score, you can hold Rhode Island to half their point total, and you only beat them by that in 1 game when you scored 17 against Northern Illinois. So do I think Holy Cross is an 0-3 team? No, but given what I've seen from them offensively, they have had a lot of trouble moving the football, and I just think Rhode Island will be able to pass the ball. Now, if Rhode Island comes out and they go 3-and-out a bunch, and all this analysis is for nothing. But given what I've seen from the Rhode Island offense, I think, I have no reason to believe that they can't put up points in this game. And you have to believe if they get to 21, it's going to be hard for Holy Cross to win the football game.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think points is going to be the problem for Holy Cross. Defense is going to be good. If you like defenses, I think this is going to be another low-scoring game, actually, as far as point total. I'm thinking maybe a 24-10 kind of contest, 24-13, nothing like up a 35-30 kind of contest. But I think URI should go in there and pick up a win. All right, we head to Cullowhee, North Carolina, where Elon faces Western Carolina. 0-2, the Phoenix. They have struggled early, but they are playing there in Cullowhee, and Western Carolina has not particularly played well themselves. Last year's meeting at Rhodes Stadium ended in dramatic fashion as Elon's potential game-tying field goal in the final minutes was blocked and returned for a touchdown, sealing a 24-17 win for Western Carolina. You know that's going to be a point of contention for Elon. It's the third victory over the Phoenix in the last 10 matchups. Elon enters with momentum, though, a 55-7 win over Davidson, rebounding from a opening season loss to Duke. Phoenix showcased a dynamic offense piling 550 yards, while Western Carolina, under fifth-year head coach Kerwin Bell, picked up its first win in 2025. They fell to Wake Forest 42-10 in week number 1. They're looking for their first win. They're 0-2, as I should say. Bell has guided the Catamounts to 3 straight winning seasons since 2022. He's supposed to have this high-powered offense. Hasn't really taken place this year, so we will see if Elon can go in there and pick up a win, Brandon. Elon and Western Carolina, I think this is a East Coast, kind of a traditional East Coast matchup that's an FCS matchup that people should be paying attention to. We'll see if it lives up to the billing.
Yeah, for Western Carolina, Garner Webb was able to, and listen, they put up points. You saw the high-powered offense on display there against the running Bulldogs, but Garner Webb was able to rally back and beat them in that game. Western Carolina, and then they lost to Wake Forest is a loss to Wake Forest. Who cares? Western Carolina, they've shown they've been able to put up points, but the defense has been unable to stop anybody. At times for Elon, they put up 55 points against Davidson, and Davidson may not be the greatest of teams or the greatest of benchmarks there, but I have to believe that for Western Carolina, that number they are able to put up offensively should be matched by Elon. It's just the fact that Western Carolina has shown that they're averse to stopping people at this point. So that's really a cause for concern in this ball game. It's going to be whoever can get 2 to 3 stops will be the favorite to win this game.
Yeah, honestly, I'm going to watch, if you pay attention to this game, watch the offensive line for Elon. It's a very, very good crew. Jamil Williams and Landon Clark, both over 100 yards rushing already on the season. I think if Elon can get that run game and hold the ball, have a better time of possession, they're going to win against Western Carolina. So we shall see in that one. It should be another good matchup there in the FCS. So we will move on, as we've got one of the best games of the weekend. It's North Dakota at Missoula, Montana, facing the Grizzlies. It's an ESPN Plus matchup. Number 16, North Dakota, and number 5, Montana. North Dakota enters the week under direction of first-year head coach Eric Schmidt, who has quickly responded to the Fighting Hawks' spread offense and revamped the base defense. UND sits number 16 in that stats performance poll, 17 in the coaches poll. Easier for me to say. Following a 1-1 start, including a convincing win over Portland State. That was absolutely dominating. They had a narrow road loss to Kansas State also. Performance has drawn national attention. High-profile clash with number 5 Montana. Quarterback Jerry Kaminsky has emerged as a dual-threat leader, passing for 200 yards with 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, while also leading the team in rushing and 3 scores on the ground. The Hawks are averaging 42.5 points per game and have racked up 462 rushing yards, 4.5 yards per carry, completing a clean, efficient aerial attack as well. So you'll see a backup quarterback come in as well, a transfer from San Diego State, Tupata Johnson. I think I just call him Javens Johnson. He adds another layer of athleticism to the offense. He could see action. When he's on the field, watch this kid's legs. He's very, very dynamic. It's the Grizz, guided by head coach Bobby Hauck in his 15th season. A 42-17 win over Division II Central Washington's their only game of the season so far. And that was a one-sided, lopsided win for Montana. So you got to wonder if they are ready for what's coming for them in this clash with North Dakota. It's Montana and North Dakota. Brandon, what are you thinking here?
Well, we know how Montana likes to win games, like to use their size, like to bully people around. North Dakota, they're going to have to use the passing game to open up the run here. They're going to have to run the ball better, and it's really tough. You can't go in there with a run-first mentality normally against Montana. But for them, they've been able to pass the ball very well with Kaminsky. Yeah, I think it's going to boil down to, for North Dakota, can they get the run game going against that tough front? And it's going to be numbers. It's a numbers game. It's going to be how many guys can Montana commit to get there and stop the run, get after the quarterback. If they can get home with 4 guys, then it's going to be really tough for the Fighting Hawks to pass the ball. If they have to commit, 7, 8 guys in the box to make sure they can stop the run or stop any type of, quarterback fake, whether it's through a run pass option or any sorts of offensive play calling, then that's going to open up the passing game.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple thing of what the game's going to boil down to. It's going to be execution, because we know what Montana is going to do. They're going to run the ball with Gilman. They're going to ask their quarterback to pass effectively, but they want to run the ball. They want to control the clock. They want to maximize the possessions or minimize the possessions in the game and maximize the time of possession in the game. So that's going to be something for North Dakota. If they go 3 and out and then they don't see the ball for 6 minutes because Montana goes on a drive, then you have 2 possessions a quarter, and you're boiling down to maybe 4 possessions and a half.
Mm-hmm.
If that, if you don't go on a sustained drive yourself and eliminate one of your possessions later on. So if you're looking at a 4 possession and a half game, I mean, you can't come up with 2 punts in there and expect to win the game, and then settle for field goals as well. So I think it's going to be getting in the end zone for North Dakota as well. You want to force Montana to commit a lot of guys in the box so you can open up the passing game, which is your bread and butter, and you need to score touchdowns.
And, I was really impressed with North Dakota, what they put together against Portland State. Jew Martin and Malachi McNeil really put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. But, some miscues by North Dakota. Portland State put up some points against this football team, and that Ayat at quarterback, and you mentioned Gilman, like those solid pieces from Montana. You got to think that kind of production offensively and especially if North Dakota makes a mistake, Montana's going to absolutely pounce. And so if North Dakota can play, they have to play a clean game with a good balance of rushing and passing, then you'll start to see them compete against Montana. But in the grand scheme of things, I think Montana probably should force some turnovers, probably should win this game by probably a touchdown or more, just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, up next, we're going to, let's see. Oh, yeah, here we go. I think this is going to be a pretty good matchup. It's going to be Illinois State at Eastern Illinois. Now, remember, Illinois State is getting some the top 5 billing in the stats the AVSC poll. And so Eastern Illinois is got their hands full at home in Charleston, Illinois. It's an ESPN Plus game, 3 o'clock there at O'Brien Field. Illinois State is coming off an opening season record of 1-1, highlighted by the 41-28 victory over Dayton, in which Wisconsin transfer quarterback Cole LaCrue rushed for 193 yards and 3 touchdowns, setting an EIU single-game rushing record at quarterback before falling 38-14 at Indiana State last week. And again, against the Sycamores, Akron transfer Charles Keelam rushed for just 86 yards. Looking at Illinois State, this is a program that's got Rinkers Wright and as a rusher, Tommy Rittenhouse at quarterback. Lots of key pieces coming back for Illinois State. Remember, this is a team that is getting a lot of publicity as a top-tier program. They cannot go on the road and stumble to Eastern Illinois program that last year looked like they were going to do some things and didn't. So are the pieces there? I don't know. You're going to have to find out. Illinois State and Eastern Illinois, Brandon.
Yeah, I just think Illinois State is probably the better team in all facets of the game. It'll be interesting to see how long more so Eastern Illinois can hang with Illinois State.
Yeah, if Illinois State jumps out to a very, very, first quarter, second quarter, 2-touchdown lead, it's over. East Illinois has got to find a way to keep this game close, no doubt. By the way, Rinker's Wright has carried the ball 22 times for 136 yards, 6.2 average yards per carry. That dude is a freaking stud. I love it. All right, SEMO and North Dakota State is the next game we got on our docket. Number 1, North Dakota State 2-0, and SEMO Redhawks 1-1. It's what do they call this stupid game? Oh, the Trees Bowl. Yeah, sponsored by North Dakota Forest Service. Okay, something like that. 1-1 SEMO, 2-0 North Dakota State. I think this is another matchup where you look at the North Dakota State's tools, the weapons that they have. They look so good against their opponents so far this season. And listen. Sorry, probably I'm trying to get you back up here. Here we go. SEMO has got a quarterback that I think is very, very talented. I'm trying to find his name.
Max Leatherwood.
Thank you. 6'8", 235-pound transfer from a community college. This dude is a massive. I think he's been back-to-back, if I'm not mistaken, back-to-back OVC player of the week. So, can they come in and steal a game from North Dakota State? I think all the arrows point North Dakota State's probably going to blow out SEMO, and it's going to be a 3-0 start for the Bison.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with, Jax Leatherwood's game. It's going to be his offensive line. That's going to be the determining factor. 6'8" is very talented, very good, very nice to have, but if your offensive line can't protect you, that just means you have a really large target.
0-5 SEMO is against number 1 ranked FCS opponents, by the way. So this would be their first win.
It's just, I don't think that line's going to hold up. And then conversely, for North Dakota State, the Bison are going to push you around with their offensive line. And now they've seemingly developed a passing game, which, who would have thought? I thought this was in like 1932, in North Dakota, from the offense they ran for the better part of the, past decade. They have a passing game now.
Yep.
And it's scary how much better they are than they were in years past when they come out there. And you couldn't stop them when you knew they were one-dimensional. Good luck trying to stop these guys when they have the option to run, to pass, to run with the quarterback, to pass the ball out of the backfield to the running back. It's the new age Bison, and it's going to be tough for SEMO.
Yeah, SEMO has a young man named Peyton Brown. He's the brother of freshman quarterback Preston Brown. They're facing each other for the very first time. Just a cute little storyline there for SEMO and NDSU. I think we both think this is going to go the way that most people agree. All right. And listen, Utah Tech, believe it or not, is a storyline. They've played very, very good football. They're going to the Kibbe Dome, however, and Idaho plays very, very good football. Idaho celebrated its 50th anniversary at the Kibbe Dome in fitting fashion, and I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. They're ranked number 8, by the way. Idaho Vandals delivered a complete performance in Moscow earlier, so I think that what you've got here. Let me see. I think what you've got here is Utah Tech quarterback Joshua Woods going to come in. He's coming off the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Week. I think he's going to come in and face a much, much more different opponent than what he's seen. Great contest. Utah Tech pushed UC Davis all the way and really should have won that football game. Found a way to lose it. You can't go into Idaho. If you want to win, 60 minutes of football. But again, I think this is a matchup you can kind of say this may go the way you think it's going to go.
Yeah, I think Idaho's the more complete team at this point. The problem is for Utah Tech is turnovers. And rule number 1, to potentially win the game, he can't squander the possession. And that's been Utah Tech's problem. I think Idaho is they're a really good team. And defensively, they fly around. So they'll be able to get after the quarterback. They'll be able to play really well at that second level. They have a couple of linebackers that can get out of the quarterback, but also guys that you trust in coverage. and guys who can get after it in the run game as well. So I think yeah, as you expect, Idaho is going to lean heavy in terms of being the favorite in this game.
Yeah, it was a 13-10 win for Idaho over Washington State. 37-30 was the score against St. Thomas. We were really happy to see Glenn Caruso's team compete there in the Kibbe Dome. I think Idaho is kind of finding its way because they had to come back and win against St. Thomas. And, those kind of games, I think, just kind of benefit your team so much because they give you that confidence. And I do think that it's Idaho is one of those teams that they've got the tools, under first-year head coach, Jason X gone, so now you're finding new ways to score. Joshua Wood is a very, very talented quarterback. He leads the team in rushing, by the way, so they've got to find a way to get Art Williams involved and some of those other quarterbacks, Elisha Cummings as well, but expect Idaho to handle Utah Tech. I think it's going to be a good game, though. There's something about this Utah Tech team that's kind of fun to watch. All right. Up next, I'm thinking about going out to this one, Brandon, in Carrollton, Georgia. There's a couple tickets left. I looked this morning. ETSU traveling to the Wolf's Den. West Georgia continues a remarkable FCS campaign under second-year head coach Joel Taylor as they enter Week 3, ranked number 25 nationally in that stats poll. They have those wins over Samford and Nichols. The Wolves have quickly become an early Cinderella for the UAC, combining offensive balance and defensive grit, averaging 408 total yards per game, 34 points per game. West Georgia leans heavily on its rush attack by Latrell Murrell, who is averaging 150 yards per contest. Quarterback Devin Widener has done a good job as well, but he's got to limit turnovers if they want to win this game, Brandon. I do think that this defense is going to be a handful for ETSU, but the Buccaneers, Will Healy, very creative, should be a good matchup here.
And what we're seeing is Caden McNamara away from Iowa is a very good quarterback.
Yes.
Harken back to the original conversation we had at the top of the show. So yeah, I think I misread the Murray State game, and I thought the Caden McNamara I saw for those years back up in Michigan and Iowa, not very good.
Mm-hmm.
Shut me up. He's performing really well, 67%, so he can get better in the completion percentage. But for West Georgia, this is a different beast. I think for the Wolves, it will show how close they are, I think, to being a contender year in, year out, because as we talked about many times, the talent pool is going to be there for them to get guys. I think the quarterback play of McNamara, I think, even though this defense from West Georgia is really good, I don't think it should confuse McNamara. I think he's seen talent and speed in a very similar fashion coming from the Big Ten.
And Devontae Houston was named the SoCon preseason offensive player of the year. He's got 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. He really is a good complement. If ETSU can get their run game started, remember Joel Taylor is a defense guy. He wants to hold the line there defensively. If they can find a balance between that offense and running game and passing game, it's going to be a handful, but West Georgia surprised a lot of teams. I mean, those are two very, very good. Remember, Nichols knocked off UIW, surprised a lot of people. Sanford's garbage. I think we can probably go ahead and set that thing on fire. It's going to be a game that, Sanford's got problems in their program. All right, we're going to move on through. We've got a Citadel and Gardner-Webb matchup, East Ernest W. Spangler Stadium. The only reason I put this one on is they're both 1-1. They're both young programs. They're both doing some good things. Brandon, Citadel and Gardner-Webb. I think this can be another good matchup there in the SoCon. Gardner-Webb, Chris Reiser doing a great job for Gardner-Webb, and then Maurice Drayton doing some things there for Citadel. Love to see these young programs doing well. It's a 6:00 game, ESPN Plus.
Yeah, it's going to be for Gardner-Webb licking your wounds after a tough contest. For Citadel as well, I just think, in this game, it's going to be turnovers. When you have two teams that are fairly similar, like in terms of the progression, in these two teams, and Citadel beat up on a bad Sanford team. Gardner-Webb got beat up by a Georgia Tech team.
Yeah.
But what you tend to look for is how did they perform. Now, what you're going to look at is, okay, when Gardner-Webb was throwing the ball, is he relatively close on time? Because the window may have been there for him, but he has to remember he's playing an ACC defense. So those tight windows aren't there against an ACC school, but they'd be there against a SoCon school. So those are the type of things that you are looking at. And if you're Sanford, if you're Citadel, how do you take, playing a Sanford team that is in shambles, maybe a program that isn't quite there, but again, you take a look, okay, these windows are a little bit wider because they may not be skilled out there, but is he putting it where the receiver needs to be to run and do things like that? So I think these two teams are more evenly matched than the opponents they played last week would show. But a turnover can be the difference in the game.
Real quickly, Maury Strayton said the ball is like oxygen for us. When we have possession, where we can do some things with it, and they've got to force turnovers and stop Nate Hampton, a very, very talented quarterback there for Gardner-Webb. Watch that game. And if you like to see good football, Nate Hampton's doing a great job there for Gardner-Webb. All right, moving on to Martin, Tennessee. It is SIU, the Salukis, facing the Skyhawks there for UT Martin. You see 0-2 start for UT Martin. Southern Illinois is going to be on the road. It's a non-conference matchup. 10th-year head coach Nick Hill has guided his program to a 1-1 start. They lost to Purdue last week. They had a 14-14 tie early in that contest, and then they fell 34-17. Quarterback DJ Williams is back, returning from injury, remains a central part of this program. If he can get started, then that's dangerous for Jason Simpson and his UT Martin squad. Jace Bauer is a transfer from Sam Houston, also spent time at Central Michigan, threw for 273 yards and a touchdown against UTEP. He's got top targets. Bryce Bailey, a transfer from NDSU, and Scotty Alexander, a transfer from Tulsa. So this should be a pretty interesting matchup. SIU and the Skyhawks of UT Martin. UT Martin, a perennial playoff team. Southern Illinois still seems like a lot of expectation, but they haven't lived up to the hype over the last couple of years. What you got?
As Coach would say, about both these programs, the FCS is better when both these programs are performing well. I think he said it individually about Southern Illinois and UT Martin. At various points. It's tough for UT Martin playing two FBS opponents, and an Oklahoma State team that got drilled by Oregon last week, but I believe in that game, UT Martin knocked out Oklahoma State's starting quarterback, and Oklahoma State still doesn't have him. And then face a UTEP team with Scotty Waldron, who has a lot of FCS guys still playing over there in El Paso. So you would like to see a little bit closer of a matchup, because I don't think UTEP is all that talented against UT Martin, but they still have more guys. They still have more scholarship. They still have money coming in there. But for Southern Illinois, you take that game against Purdue and you just go, okay, that was a pretty good outing against a Purdue team. I think this is a game where I got to think of who will potentially be further along. I can't read too much into, okay, they played this and the stats were this. You got to take a look at the team as a whole. I just think, at this point, UT Martin may be a little bit further along, even though Southern Illinois played probably better the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the home field advantage will play into UT Martin's favor in this one, and I think that Skyhawks should come away with a victory, but anything's possible in the FCS. Up next, we got Tarleton State in Central Arkansas. They're in Conway on that crazy field. They've got that the stripes field there in Central Arkansas. Tarleton State, of course, has that steady leadership of Todd Whitten, who's been there now 16 seasons. They're firing on all cylinders. A lot of people saying that this program, by the way, number 3 in the country in the FCS poll. So this team is explosive. A lot of people saying that this team is the most competitive matchup for a Montana State, South Dakota State, North Dakota State. Victor Gabalis has been nearly flawless in his his previous games, 599 yards, 8 touchdowns, has not thrown an interception. Running back Trey Page III leads the ground attack with 283 yards and 3 scores. And Trayvon West adds a vertical threat with 149 yards receiving. Defensively, Tarleton is equally impressive, just allowing 10 points per game, 164.7 yards passing and 164 yards rushing. That's not a lot. Ball hawking mentality. They lead the division in fumble recoveries and have consistently flipped the field percentage with good special teams. Central Arkansas, they're under Nathan Brown. We've talked to him many times. Still searching for that rhythm on both sides of the ball. They're averaging 23.5 points per game with a run-heavy approach in 2025, averaging 236 yards per outing. Luther Richardson is their quarterback, 356 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's been intercepted twice, however, and the defense has struggled to contain opponents, surrendering 39 points per game. This is going to be a very, very difficult matchup, in my opinion, at home for Central Arkansas. But if Nathan Brown wants to bring his program into the conversation, you pick up a win like this at your home field, Brandon.
Yeah, if you're about that life, you need to be about that life. And I think that's where Central Arkansas is. I got a couple of questions for the Texans, and mainly for Coach Witten. When they beat Army, I think they got $500,000 to play that game. So essentially, we as a collective paid for the Texans to beat Army.
Right.
So technically, they paid for the privilege to beat Army, considering where the Army's budget comes from. So I just want to know, do they get that money back, or can they just write it off?
It's a good point. It's a good point.
You know, we paid for Army to lose to Tarleton State. But here's the thing, all jokes aside.
Shout out Danny Verpel.
They are really, really good.
Yeah.
Offensively. They can light up a scoreboard. And I think, for Nathan Brown, it's going to be, can you win this game by potentially holding them under 28 points? Maybe, but I don't think so. I think 28's the floor. So now you have to look for 29, and I don't know if Central Arkansas can get there right now.
Yeah.
I think that's the toughest point. I don't know if they can get to 29 against the Texans defense. So I'm leaning this is going to be a really tough game for Central Arkansas, but ultimately I think we'll end up looking back on like 3 possessions that decide the game, and the score may not be indicative of how close the game was played over the course of, let's say the first 2 or 3 quarters.
Yeah. All right. Yep. I think it's a great analysis. I think finding those points, holding Tarleton State to a minimum amount, not a great task. As we head to our final game here to preview, it's the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks facing Southern Utah. Northern Arizona, number 18 in the country. They're coached by Brian Wright in his 2nd season, doing some great things there for the Lumberjacks. Lots of conversation about this Northern Arizona team. And for Southern Utah, they were kind of up and coming under Delane Fitzgerald, and all of a sudden they just cannot win a football game, Brandon. I can't figure it out. They've got the talent there, but they lost to San Diego this past week in overtime. What's going on here? This is a tough conversation. We know Delane Fitzgerald. He's the great guy. He's been on the show a couple times. Got to pull it together, and this is a very tough Northern Arizona team coming to your home. We'll see. Quarterback Bronson Barron, by the way, for the Southern Utah, has 6 touchdowns, completing 66% of his passes. Joshua Dye is on the ground for them. Those guys are going to be some X factors for Southern Utah. If they're going to get started, they need to get started fast against Northern Arizona.
Yeah, that's the toughest thing for Delane Fitzgerald. He'll be the first to tell you, you got to win those games. And, I don't know where the disconnect, because it's never the same thing. Like, if it's the same thing, you could just fix it.
Yeah.
It's never the same thing with them. It's always, another factor or another variable that goes wrong in those games. And he'll be the first to tell you that falls on him as the head coach. I think I don't want to say to salvage their season, because there's still a lot left for them, but you can't keep losing games like this, especially when you take a look at how the Texans are playing, and you can assume that they are probably the favorite to win the UAC. Can you get a second team in there? And I think they will get 2, a minimum of 2 into the playoffs as an at-large. well, what do you have to do to be that second team? Well, you can't lose to San Diego and you can't lose to Northern Arizona and then make the case of, having a good resume. So
Yeah.
I hate saying week 3, this is a must-win game, but if you're not going to win the UAC, you need this game.
I think this Northern Arizona picked up a win against Utah Tech, that feisty team we talked about earlier, 38-37, 38-31 or something like that. It was a close game. Ty Pennington, Seth Cromwell for Northern Arizona. They're their engine, right? The quarterback Pennington and running back Cromwell. I think this could be a very similar game to that Utah Tech game, and if Southern Utah stays close, they can find a way to win. But you got to stop that run game. Seth Cromwell is very, very good. Ty Pennington, he's got his talent. I think the secondary is pretty good there for Southern Utah, but we shall see. All right, that wraps up our preview for the season. But let's go ahead and just go through these games one more time. I think, Brandon, we both picked Leigh to pick up a win against Duquesne. South Dakota against Northern Colorado. You are Rhode Island and Holy Cross. Who'd you have?
Rhode Island.
Yeah, me too. Elon, Western Carolina. I'm going to go Elon on this one, Brandon.
I think Elon is a really good team, and I think they have really good, as you mentioned, line play. I just can't envision a world where Western Carolina can't win a ball game at this point. So I'm going to pick Western Carolina with the caveat of I'm perfectly okay if Elon wins this game. It's just I just don't see a winless Western Carolina.
Tony Trisciani and Kerwin Bell, the head coaches there. North Dakota and Montana. This is the highlight ranked matchup. Who you got?
Montana.
Yeah, I'm thinking Montana as well. Eli Gilman's going to run for 1,000,000 yards. Illinois State and Eastern Illinois. I think we both had Illinois State picking up the win here. SEMO, NDSU. NDSU is not going to lose this game at home. Utah Tech, Idaho. We both picked the Vandals. And ETSU, West Georgia.
I think, ETSU and seeing how Cade McNamara is playing in as a viable quarterback option there for Will Healy. And, maybe I eat a little crow going back to the Murray State pick. I think West Georgia's good. I just don't think they're there yet. And I think for Joel Taylor, he knows that these are the type of games, even though you may not win, it says more about your program if you make it a game late. Because, again, I don't want to, I don't know necessarily just how round out that roster really is yet. They're still trying to get the guys in there, but I think it does more for them. Hell, even if you are playing those guys and you look good, you can go in there in that Tennessee area, in that Cumberland Gap area, and get kids if you need be. But I think for right now, with the way Cade McNamara is playing, there's nothing defensively that's going to surprise him. But close game. West Georgia wins in terms of future prospects, in terms of, okay, they look like a very viable program to a lot of kids that didn't know where Carrollton, Georgia was, but ETSU will win the game.
You know what? Joel Taylor joined us this week on the program. Coach Jackson, who couldn't join us today, he's traveling. Actually, he's coming, I think, down to Smyrna to our neck of the woods. He picked West Georgia to beat Nichols. I am not picking against West Georgia this week. I think they're going to pick up a win against ETSU. Devin Widener has to put it together. If he can, then it will be a win for West Georgia. Citadel and Gardner-Webb. Brandon, who'd you have?
I don't really have a mark for this game, so give me Gardner-Webb.
Yeah, I got Gardner-Webb as well. Southern Illinois and UT Martin. I've got the Skyhawks.
Yeah, UT Martin. I think I go with the rounded out roster.
Yeah. Tarleton Central, Arkansas. I think we both said Tarleton's going to pick up the win here, unless you got something different.
No.
The Lumberjacks and Southern Utah, Brandon.
I hate saying week 3, game 3, it's a must win, but it's a must win for Southern Utah because I don't think they're winning the UAC, so they need something on their resume that looks good.
All right, I'm going to go NAU, the Lumberjacks picking up a win. All right, we went 10 minutes over. Please ask your wife for forgiveness, Brandon. And again, Coach Jackson couldn't join us, but he's traveling, so safe travels to him. But we'll be back on Sunday night probably for a recap. Hopefully Brandon can join us, but again, those babies need his attention as well. Thank you so much for jumping on this Friday morning, Brandon. I do appreciate it. by the way, please we've got great views on these programs. Please like and subscribe. That goes a long way. We get 500 subscribers, we can monetize. We're going to be bringing in some jerseys and some merch and be doing some giveaways and all kind of stuff, but we're just trying to build it right now. So please like and subscribe. It is free. All you got to do is click the button, click the subscribe button. You can hit a notification bell. It'll tell you when we go live, because this is a new platform, and this is, as we speak this second, it is live. Many will watch in replay. Brandon, any final thoughts on week 3 coming up?
Week 3 is coming up.
You have a thoughts on the potential win, Eastern Kentucky, Marshall, Monmouth, Charlotte, FCS matchup. Any potential FCS, fear the FCS wins?
Marshall's a really bad football team.
Yeah.
So I think anybody who plays Marshall has a chance to beat Marshall. Other than that, I don't know. I think it's you got to get them early. I mean, and once one happens, these FBS programs, they don't want to be the next one. So once the first grouping happens, it's really tough to get there. I think Indiana will be up on Indiana State Friday night. I'm trying to think of if there's any more. Villanova doesn't stand a chance against Penn State. They might as well not dress their starters in that game. I don't see many more coming.
Abilene Christian, TCU.
TCU is not great, but I think they should be able to, just sheer number of bodies, beat Abilene Christian.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think the best chance that the FCS has this weekend is that Monmouth matchup at Charlotte. That's probably the best one, in my opinion. Brandon, go have a great weekend.
maybe Mike Vick against Rutgers.
Oh, could you imagine?
One could dream.
Oh, couldn't you imagine? Yeah, one can dream indeed. All right, this has been the FCS Checkdown. Brandon Joseph, thank you so much. Coach Ron Jackson, I hope you have a great trip. Maybe we'll get a chance to hook up this weekend if I go out to West Georgia to that football game. All right, Brandon, have a great weekend. This has been the FCS Checkdown for Brandon Joseph. I'm Nathan McCurry. See you soon.
Yep. Oh.